Hello and welcome to Holiday Harmony, Soberlink's tools for safe and conflict-free co-parenting. I am so excited to be here with you today and share strategies to help make this holiday season more peaceful and enjoyable for you and your family. Today, I'll be providing you with a variety of tools and practical tips that you and your co-parent can use to create a harmonious environment, minimize conflict, and prioritize what matters most, your family time and your children. So let's dive in and explore how you can make this holiday season stress-free so that you can focus on creating meaningful moments with you and your family. Also, if you have a question or a comment, we do have a representative from Soberlink here to answer your questions, so feel free to type those into the chat. My name's Tessa Noel. I'm a certified divorce coach and co-parenting specialist. I am passionate about educating parents who are going through divorce and separation. I recently published my first children's book called Stella's Two Homes. It is now available on Amazon. I teach workshops, create content, and work for brands. I also work one-on-one with parents after divorce and separation. The main goal of my platform is to encourage parents who are going through divorce and separation and educate them on how to keep children out of the conflict of divorce. I abide by a two homes, one family philosophy. And I believe that even high conflict co-parents have the power to do what's best for children when equipped with the right tools and resources. And on a personal note, I am just like you parents that are attending this webinar. I have an 8 and a 9-year-old. I share custody with my out-of-state co-parent. And if I don't have an early morning Zoom, I will 100% drop my kids off to school wearing my pajamas. So also, like some of you, I have a court-ordered parenting plan that includes a parking lot exchange spot. So I want you to know that these tools and resources that I'm sharing with you today are based on my real life experiences, my clients' real life experiences, and my education as a divorce professional. My guest speaker today is Kylie Wheel. Hi, Kylie. Good to see you
Hello,
today.
good to see you
Hi.
too.
She is the program director and course facilitator at Brain Highways. Kylie has a degree in physiology, and she is the founder of Brain Highways Daughter. So she has been involved with the program in numerous ways since it first began. Kylie has a unique gift in sharing the work that she is passionate about with other parents and helping children get out of survival mode and into connection mode to be able to learn, foster social relationships, and thrive. I invited her here today because I heard about her program before I even knew her. When I actually met her in person at my child's school, I was inspired by her kind and gentle nature. And when I had the opportunity to watch her speak and share her knowledge, I was absolutely floored. I was very impressed by her knowledge and her ability to share it with other parents and teachers. We are so fortunate to be able to have her here today, and hopefully you are taking notes because she's got some very valuable insights on how to get us all back into connection mode.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to share.
Yeah. So then that brings us to why are you here? If you're here, it's likely because you're seeking ways to create a safer and more peaceful co-parenting experience. This webinar is for all kinds of co-parents, parents using Soberlink level 1 or 2 who are looking for additional resources to keep their children safe and happy, co-parents who are searching for helpful tools to minimize conflict in their co-parenting relationship, parents who are seeking guidance on how to best support their children through divorce or separation, especially during tough times. Or maybe you are a divorce professional who is looking for reliable tools and resources to help your clients and their children navigate the challenges of separation. So in today's webinar, we'll dive into actionable strategies, practical tools, and resources to help you strengthen your co-parenting approach and protect your children's emotional well-being. I'd like to start off the program today by showing you a video discussing the effect of conflict on children's bodies. I believe it's important that we all understand just how critical it is to protect our children from conflict, not only for our children's health and well-being, but also for the success of their future relationships. As co-parents who are divorced or separated or going through divorce or separation, and some of us who are dealing with issues related to substance use disorder, it's easy to get swept up into our own issues. And um, we need to stop and think, how is my child handling all of this? What can I do to minimize the impact of this major life event on my child? So, this is a TEDx talk given by Dr. Tamara Afifi. She is a professor in the Department of Communication at UCSB, and she focuses on communication processes related to uncertainty, loss, stress, and coping in families, with particular emphasis on post divorce families. So, in this abbreviated version of her TEDx talk, which you will see here, she tells us exactly why it's so important to shield our children from the conflict between parents. And this is an edited version, but I highly encourage you to go on YouTube and watch the whole thing after you see this clip here. I mean, after our webinar, of course.
What I want you to remember today is this point. There's one variable that determines more than any other how well children function after divorce, and that's parents' conflict. I would say that the most profound finding on divorce in the past 4 decades is that parents' conflict is more important than divorce per se in predicting how well children function. In fact, children whose parents have a lot of conflict and who stay married, those are the children that actually have the most difficulty psychologically and have the most difficulty establishing satisfying relationships later in life, not the children necessarily whose parents divorce. It's not so much about the divorce as it is how parents relate to each other. So look, the way that you're fighting is affecting your children's bodies. And from that point forward, I began to look at physiology and children's physiological reactions to their parents' conflict and other types of communication patterns through things like their heart rates, their galvanic skin response to their sweat or arousal, and looking at stress hormones. And so, when your body is stressed, your brain tells the rest of your body to emit hormones like cortisol. So we take even adolescents into the lab, we sit them on a couch, and then we have them talk about something stressful about the parents' relationship. And these are parents and kids from divorced and non-divorced families. And then we take their spit before the interaction and 3 or 4 times after the interaction to look at how their body is responding when they're talking about something stressful related to the parents' relationship. And what we found, for example, is that parents that have really good communication skills, they don't have very much conflict, they're supportive, they're competent in the way that they communicate, they're affectionate. It doesn't really stress out kids very much, that type of interaction. They stress out a little bit, get a little bit anxious, and then their bodies are able to calm down really quickly. Doesn't matter whether their parents are divorced or not. The kids that have the most difficulty are the ones whose parents have a lot of conflict or still married. Those kids, after that type of interaction, their anxiety levels are like you're bouncing a Super Bowl in this room. Their bodies are less able to calm down after an interaction like that. Now, that's just one interaction. Now, imagine if your parents are chronically fighting, what that can do inside the child's body. Now, children of divorce whose parents had a lot of conflict also reacted. They had a delayed reaction, but then they were able to calm down again. The other parents have to be very careful so that doesn't tip over, right? So their child doesn't become their confidant, their best friend, another parent. And that's a slippery slope. And I think that's a generational difference as well that we're facing. But that closeness is a good, is a good thing. But she felt caught between her parents. That's what really bothers adolescents and young adults, is when they feel caught or torn between their parents. When children feel caught or torn between their parents, they're tugged between different loyalties. They love both of their parents, right? So they're trying to maintain these relationships and defend their parents and the presence of the other. Children feel torn when their parents make them mediaries, when they make them messengers of information. They ask them to relay information. They use inappropriate disclosures, and it could be very, very small things. So, for example, the dad says, "Can you just remind your mom that you have a dentist appointment on Tuesday?" Easy, right? The child goes to the mom. Mom, Dad said I have a dentist appointment on Tuesday, and the mom's like, "Well, why didn't your dad just tell me that? Like, why doesn't your father ever talk to me? You tell your father he needs to talk to me more." It was a simple task. Turns into a child feeling caught. Unfortunately, when children feel caught, what they tend to do, because it creates dissonance, anxiety in their brains, right? So, but unfortunately, the way that they settle that dissonance is by forming an alliance with one parent against the other. And they don't mean to do it. It's just easier. Unfortunately, so they might maintain a really close relationship with one parent, but they lose the connection with the other. I don't know how many quotes I got from students in these classes that said, because of that one thing, I lost a relationship with my mom or dad for 3 years. And it's never been the same. So how else do children respond when they feel caught? They avoid. They don't want to talk about it, right? So when they avoid, the parents don't realize it exists very much. So they keep on talking, right? And the child keeps on avoiding. So it's a vicious cycle. Sometimes the second reaction that they have is they become aggressive, right? They mimic their parents' conflict in return. The third thing they do is they directly confront their parents and say, look, like you need to keep me out of this. And that actually is the most effective for them, but they have to say it numerous times. But that only comes with age, because we tell our children, don't talk back to your parents. right? So they're not going to talk back to their parents usually. But as they age, they increase in their confidence and their ability to, or they gain efficacy. They think they now have the ability to tell their parents, like, look, don't put me in the middle of it. So I wanted to end on a positive note, because I said I would. What can parents do? That's the big question. And I felt this talk today was really important because I want to give parents efficacy. What can they do? How can I feel like I can do something so that my children don't get put in the middle? I think parents feel very frustrated because they feel like they can control their own actions, but they can't control the bad behavior of the other parent. Well, the first thing you need to do is, if you can cooperate, try and create rules between each other for how you're going to communicate to each other and to your children, and try to co-parent together. That's the best alternative. But if you tried and tried and tried and that's not working, the parent continues to badmouth you. Don't engage. Let go. Focus on your own behavior. Because time and time again, adolescents and young adults will tell you, I respected that. I could see what was going on. And my mom or my dad didn't go there. You know, if you don't engage, your behavior can actually affect the other behavior because it's not a game anymore. The second thing is to figure out where the emotions are coming from. Robert Emery, who was a clinician and a researcher who studies divorce, said, sometimes parents, former spouses are really angry at each other because they hate each other. And sometimes they're really angry at each other because they still love each other. You have to figure out, why are you so angry? And then you have to figure out how to redefine your relationship. You're no longer married to each other, you're co-parents. So trying to figure out how you can go from spouses to co-parents effectively. And the last thing that I would recommend is trying to take away some of the emotion. In conflict in general, people tend to say the worst things that they regret when they're highly emotional, highly angry, highly sad. So try and diffuse some of the emotion. Something very simple, for example, is to email the parent instead of talking to them face-to-face so much or via the phone. Email has its own issues, but it does tend to diffuse emotion. And the last and final point that I wanted to make to parents, the most important thing you can do is to listen to your child's voice. They may not say anything, but try and put yourself in your child's shoes and think of the long-term impact that this would have and listen to their inner voice. Thank you.
So I hope you all have your own takeaways from this clip, but something I wanted you to remember are these two quotes from Dr. Afifi. I want you to think of these quotes when you are on the phone with your co-parent negotiating the holiday schedule and they conveniently forgot that they promised you Thanksgiving this year because you swapped your 4th of July. Or when they come to pick up the kids 20 minutes late drinking a Starbucks and then they ask you to take the car seats out of your car and install them into their car, but now you're late for an appointment. These are all real life opportunities to help protect your child from conflict. In her first quote, she tells us conflict is more important than divorce per se in predicting how well children function. This is so powerful because it shifts the focus from simply worrying about the divorce or the separation or the issues that you're going through, and then thinking about the quality of our interactions with our co-parent. In her second quote, children whose parents have a lot of conflict and who stay married have the most difficulty psychologically. Again, we're driving home that point that children's exposure to conflict is what can leave the deepest marks on a child's emotional well-being. So as parents, we each have a responsibility to protect children from these high conflict situations, which is another reason why we have Kylie here today, because it's important to know what's going on in our bodies and in our nervous system and how to be proactive with our children and with ourselves. Because we can't change the past, we can't control what happens for the most part at our co-parents' home, but we can ensure that we're taking precautions to help keep our children safe. So I've prepared some very common holiday co-parenting issues, and then I'm going to give you tools to respond to these issues. The busiest time for me as a divorce coach is January because parents wait until after the holidays to divorce or separate from their partner. And the holidays can be a trigger or a catalyst for parents to split a lot of times. Now, no one hands you a survival guide and says, here you go, here's how not to screw up the kids. So we're all just kind of figuring it out at first. So how do we keep the children out of the conflict or of the divorce or separation? And I'm going to show you a clip of an example of conflict between parents.
I missed you guys so much. How was your time with Daddy?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, didn't we, guys?
Why did they say that?
We need the mayonnaise sandwiches up. I made them for lunch.
Ew.
You look tanned. It's Florida with
Really?
the heat here.
I feel like we were hardly ever outside. So, what did you guys do with Daddy?
Oh, they came to watch me hit a bucket of balls, and they got chicken wings.
Wow. Where did you get the chicken wing?
Like that.
Okay, everybody, say bye to Daddy now.
Okay,
We're
guys,
gonna
I'll see you in a couple
go.
weeks, okay? Take
Okay,
care. Be good
you're
for
picking
mommy.
him up on Wednesday.
See you guys on Wednesday, okay? Be good.
Okay, watch out. There's a car.
Yeah, there's a car. It's a
Okay.
family restaurant, Linz. It's a family restaurant.
Okay.
And
Bye, Daddy.
It's half price wings on
Bye,
Wednesday.
Daddy.
So while this video is a silly skit and the parents aren't outright screaming at each other, the reality is that the passive aggressive behavior that they exhibited is detrimental to the children and it causes those cortisol spikes that we just learned about from Dr. Afifi. Custody exchanges are where most conflict between co-parents can occur. These exchanges are not the time to discuss new partners or admonish your co-parent's meal choice or discuss the custody schedule. So I'm going to share with you the importance of being aware of potential conflict, of identifying the triggers, communicating in a way that protects your children by using my kind method, and using tools like Soberlink to maintain a safe and harmonious environment for your children. Here are some examples of tools that are going to help us navigate holiday co-parenting. First, I want you to adopt a supportive co-parenting mindset. This is about maintaining a cooperative and proactive approach by focusing on what's best for your children. Next, I'm going to teach you my kind method of written co-parenting communication, which is a powerful tool for maintaining respectful, effective communication. And also it helps set clear boundaries and minimize conflict. And another tool is just being aware of and prepared for potential points of contention to allow you to manage your responses effectively and avoid escalation. Also, we're going to talk about some alcohol use disorder triggers and being able to identify situations where alcohol could be present, such as gatherings or events where a parent with an alcohol use disorder may be at more of a risk of drinking, and being able to take steps to prevent or mitigate this exposure to these triggers. Having a supportive co-parenting mindset means acknowledging that even if your co-parent has challenges, or if you're not their biggest fan, they're still an important part of your child's life. It's not about excusing their behavior. It's about focusing on what's best for your child. I'm going to give you an example of this. And I want to let you know that this isn't, you can do little things to lead up to this. This is an example from my life. And I know sometimes it's hard for people to take this supportive co-parenting mindset, especially when dealing with big challenges. And so you can work your way up to this. Last weekend, my son was trading Pokemon cards in our driveway with his friends. One little boy mentioned that he had gotten his cards from his dad. And he asked my son why his dad wasn't home. My son explained that his dad lived in Nevada and that he had two homes. The boy then teasingly exclaimed, "Ha ha, you don't have a dad." And I could see that my son was embarrassed and flustered and he didn't know what to say. So I stepped in and I said to the boy, my son does have a dad, and his dad comes and picks him up, and they go on adventures together. And he has a dirt bike at his dad's house, and they have a pool, and they get to go to Las Vegas shows like the Blue Man Group. And sometimes his dad even takes him on vacation, and they've been to Hawaii and Costa Rica. So he does have a dad, and he's very present in my son's life. I could see the boys were impressed, and my son's chest puffed up. One of the boys said, "Whoa, your dad sounds cool," and that was the boy that had been teasing him. So if you know me personally, and if you know what I've been through, you know that I have every right not to say one kind word about my children's father. The thing is, I understand the importance of his role in my children's life and how important it is that I'm supportive of that role. So if you could have seen how proud my son was in that moment, you would understand that's all that matters. Being supportive also means setting boundaries and having realistic expectations. The holiday can bring out more stress than usual. So we need to go into co-parenting situations prepared. Protecting your own emotional health is so important. Setting boundaries that help you avoid old arguments or drama. Being supportive doesn't mean accepting unhealthy behavior. It means focusing on what you can control and prioritizing your children. And finally, we need to plan ahead and have a backup plan ready. This means being ready to step in and take on more parenting time. Let's say if a Soberlink test is missed. When things don't go as expected, you have to be prepared and you have to stay calm, clear, and focused on your child. So if you're taking notes, please write this down. One of my most effective communication tools that I teach to my clients and in my co-parenting courses is my KIND method for written communication. I know Dr. Afifi advised us to keep communication in email, and this KIND method provides a template for that. So here it is. K is for keep it short, be concise. Long messages can lead to misunderstandings or trigger unnecessary arguments. I is for information only. You're going to stick to the facts, share only what is needed to address the topic at hand, and focus on child-centered information. N is for nice. Use a calm, neutral, and respectful tone, even if the situation is stressful. Think customer service friendly. And D is for determines the end of the conversation. Once necessary information has been shared. This avoids drawn out back and forth exchanges and that can lead to conflict. A simple have a nice day lets your co-parent know that you're done discussing this topic with them. And then we need to be proactive about potential conflict. We're going to anticipate issues before they arise. Whether it's a planned event or an unscheduled change, being prepared can help you manage difficult situations with a clear head. It's important to identify triggers and plan responses, know what typically leads to conflict, such as late arrivals, missed Soberlink tests, or maybe exposure to stressful situations with extended family. Plan your responses in advance so you can stay calm and assertive while keeping the kids out of it. Recognize the potential triggers for conflict, but also triggers for someone who has alcohol use disorder. Don't plan an exchange during times during the holiday parties where a parent may be drinking. This might even look like planning an alternative activity for your child just in case your co-parent misses a test or shows up impaired. So think play dates, movie nights, or holiday themed activities to be able to step in and take over the parenting time. Consider modifying your custody schedule so that you have the children on known days or evenings when gatherings are likely to involve alcohol. This can minimize the risk of your child being exposed to an unsafe or unstable situation. Soberlink allows you to confirm that a co-parent is sober before they pick up or spend time with your children. This extra step adds a layer of safety and accountability, giving you peace of mind during their parenting time. Beyond that, maintain open communication with family and friends about your boundaries and expectations. If they know about the situation, they're less likely to unintentionally create environments where alcohol is present around the parent with an alcohol use disorder. Also, consider arranging child exchanges at neutral locations or times when parties and gatherings aren't taking place. Basically, avoiding triggers isn't about walking on eggshells. It's about being smart and prepared so that you can keep the focus on your child. One of the biggest holiday co-parenting issues I've found is actually talking to your children about these difficult topics like divorce or separation and alcohol use disorder. So this is your first opportunity to support your child and give them the best possible experience, despite the big changes that your family is facing. But unfortunately, it's also your first chance to unintentionally expose them to information that may damage their self-worth or make them feel the burden of adult matters. I think we can all agree we never want to burden our children with adult issues because they're not equipped to handle them without consequences. Some tools to help navigate this these difficult topics are my Santa Claus principle and some key talking points. Here's my Santa Claus. It's very fitting for the theme of this webinar. But in co-parenting, when your children are at an age where they still believe in magic, they shouldn't be told that their other parent isn't the hero that they might think that they are. While they're still young enough to believe in Santa, they often see their parents through a magical lens. It's a delicate phase that naturally fades as they grow older. This also means that they are not mentally or emotionally developed enough to be able to cope with the upsetting details behind your divorce or separation. So it's important to avoid placing blame or using disparaging words when talking about the other parent. When your young children hear your father is the reason we divorced or your mom is a hot mess, they're hearing you are the reason for the divorce or you are a hot mess. They're internalizing these comments because they have not yet formed their identity or self-esteem apart from their parents. Children identify with both parents and have the right to love them both. I want you to remember this and use this principle as a filter through which you give your child information to make sure difficult discussions don't do damage to your child's own self-worth and self-esteem. Here are some talking points if you're taking notes. These are some key tips for talking to your children about tough topics. First, we're going to avoid blame or negative talk. As we discussed, the children often take negative comments about their parent to heart, which can really hurt their mental health. Family courts even include rules in parenting plans that remind parents not to talk badly about each other to their kids. So keep your language neutral even when discussing the other parent's struggles with alcohol. Also, you need to keep it age appropriate. Adjust your explanations based on your child's age. Use my Santa Claus principle as a guide. For younger kids, keep it simple, like saying mom or dad is having a hard time making good choices if they ask why their parent missed a visit due to drinking. When talking about divorce, stick to general phrases like divorce is an adult decision and has nothing to do with kids, or we decided to have two homes so that we could be happier. It's important that you validate your children's feelings. Make sure your child knows that their emotions are okay. Let them know that it's normal to be sad, angry, or confused. Sometimes I tell my 8-year-old, hey, it's okay to be mad, just don't be mean. Acknowledge their feelings so that they know that they're heard. And then encourage open communication. Reassure your child that they can talk to you about anything. Listen to their concerns without judgment and offer comfort. It helps to remind them that what's going to stay the same and what will change. So saying something like, hey, you're still going to get presents from Santa, but he's going to come to dad's house first and then mom's. Or we're still going to be able to have auntie's apple pie, but we're going to have it for breakfast the day after Thanksgiving because our plans have changed this year. Set boundaries with older kids. If older kids ask tough questions like, hey, did mom cheat on you? It's okay to set a boundary with them. Let them know that, hey, I'm not going to discuss details with you about your other parent, and I'm going to support your relationship with your other parent. Be gentle but firm in setting these boundaries. And then also teach safety. Teach your kids how to recognize unsafe situations, like getting in a car with someone who's been drinking. Make sure that they know when and how to call for help and that they feel confident in finding a safe adult when needed. Reassure them about responsibility. If your co-parent struggles with alcohol, remind them that they are not responsible for their parent's addiction. Just like with divorce, kids can feel the guilt or think that they're to blame. So it's important that you're clear that they did not cause the issue and they are not responsible for fixing it. And lastly, take care of yourself. Remember that healing from divorce or separation takes time. And also when substance issues are involved, that timeline can be even longer. Make sure you and your kids have support systems in place outside of your immediate family, like a licensed therapist. This helps keep everyone moving forward and prevents getting stuck in anger or sadness. Holiday custody schedules can be a major source of conflict for co-parents. When children are exposed to fighting over the parenting schedule, the impact can be significant. What happens when the kids are witnessing their parents arguing? They go into survival mode. Their amygdala and brain's fear center kicks into high gear. This means their ability to process information and learn effectively shuts down. They're no longer in a state where they can feel safe or secure. Instead, they're just trying to cope with the stress of the moment. Most of these conflicts tend to flare up during exchanges, which can be a high stress time for everyone. So keep this in mind and recognize how these moments can affect your children's well-being. Some tools to help with this are using a co-parenting app or service. Also adopting a professional child-centered relationship after divorce. Setting boundaries with your co-parent. Figuring out your holiday schedule well in advance using a co-parenting app to communicate. Using a calendar to figure it out. And having it available for the kids too, so that they can see, oh, I'm with dad this year, or I'm with mom this year. And then, of course, we're going to go over how Soberlink can help. To eliminate fighting with your co-parent this holiday season, I highly encourage using a co-parenting app such as Talking Parents or Our Family Wizard, and limit your communication to only child-related issues. Using an app for communication creates accountability and sets the expectation of professionalism. Conversations are documented and easily downloaded, which helps both parents to remember that they need to maintain respectful communication. And then it also eliminates the need to discuss adult matters in front of the children. Not only that, like I said, it sets an expectation of respectful communication. And also when you're using these apps, you can use my kind method of written communication as a template. So let's talk about your parenting plan. This is what I see with my clients. The most fighting happens over parenting plans. So crafting a clear defined parenting plan with a set schedule, including specific holiday details, is absolutely essential when managing challenges relating to a co-parent who suffers with alcohol use disorder. A solid plan eliminates last-minute negotiations and prevents conflicts over holiday time. Routine and structure are key to helping children feel safe and secure. A predictable plan allows them to navigate changes with confidence and reduce stress. I know a lot of parents operate kind of just, well, when they're available, they'll take them. And when I'm available, I'll take them. But during the holidays, all of a sudden it becomes very important to have your children during those times, right? So also when you're dealing, when you have a co-parent that is struggling with alcohol use, it's important to incorporate a plan that incorporates Soberlink monitoring into the plan, regardless of whether having a level 1 or level 2. Having a backup plan is essential, particularly during the holidays when schedules can be more hectic. So you're going to keep it child focused, create a plan that prioritizes your child's schedule, especially for school age children. You're going to use the school calendar to guide the schedule, plan to split or alternate these school breaks fairly, and consider options for younger children, like splitting the holiday down the middle. I'm going to give you some examples of typical holiday schedules. And also, if you'd like to go to my website and download this free holiday schedule template, it's a 3-page template. It gives you an example of what typical holiday schedules look like. And then it gives you 2 pages to kind of create your own holiday schedule. And if you look in the chat, my website's in the chat as well. And if you have questions about that, go ahead and type them into the chat. So here's some common ways parents divide and share holiday parenting time. Some parents alternate holidays every other year. You can assign the holiday to each parent for even years and then swap to odd years. With this arrangement, you won't miss spending a holiday with your child for more than a year in a row. For parents of school-age children, I want you to consider alternating the entire break so each parent can plan a vacation or a trip during that holiday. Parents of younger children tend to like the split day holidays. You can divide the holidays so that your child spends part of the day with each parent. This arrangement requires careful planning and coordination to avoid your child spending the day traveling back and forth. But I really liked it when my babies were younger. You can also schedule the holiday twice. No one says that you have to have Christmas on Christmas Day, right? Or Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day. And if your children are young enough, they don't know the difference. You can also assign fixed holidays. Each parent can have the same holiday each year, especially if you value different holidays. Maybe you have a parent that celebrates Hanukkah, or maybe your co-parent doesn't celebrate Christmas. So then, of course, you're going to want that holiday every year. But a really good example of this is maybe mom can have Mother's Day every year and dad can have Father's Day every year. So you can use a combination of these approaches to create a holiday plan that allows your child to enjoy family traditions and spend meaningful time with both parents. So again, visit my website, KaiMamaDivorceCoaching.com, and download a free copy of this template so that you can create your own schedule. Another very helpful tool, especially if you're co-parenting with someone who struggles with alcohol use disorder, is using Soberlink. Co-parenting after divorce is challenging enough, but when your co-parent struggles with alcohol use, having a detailed parenting plan is crucial. As we discussed earlier, Soberlink provides 2 monitoring levels that cater to different family needs. This is what the Soberlink device looks like. And I'm just going to briefly cover the levels. Level 1 is a parenting time only program. This level requires testing only during parenting time, with an extra test taking approximately 2 hours before being with the child to ensure sobriety. It's a good fit for families where alcohol abuse isn't a significant ongoing issue. However, the monitored parent is responsible for managing their own testing reminders. This setup provides peace of mind during scheduled visits while allowing for some flexibility. Level 2 is a daily testing program. This level is for families where alcohol use is more established or complete sobriety is necessary. Daily testing is managed by Soberlink's reminders and includes regular tests throughout the day, even when the monitored parent isn't with the child. This option offers more accountability, ensures consistent sobriety, reducing stress related to alcohol use. It's ideal for parents needing stricter monitoring to maintain trust and safety. Both levels create accountability and support long-term sobriety with regular testing windows. As progress is made, these levels can be adjusted through a step-down process to better fit the family's evolving needs. And I have a discount code on my website. So you can either go to my link in bio on my socials or my website and scroll all the way down, and you can purchase the Soberlink device at a discounted price. And here is what the device looks like. And it has built-in tamper-proof safety measures, such as a camera equipped with facial recognition technology. So it's really a great, amazing resource for families. When navigating holiday co-parenting, one major issue many co-parents face is parents who don't respect boundaries, whether it's the parenting plan or personal limits or even accountability tools such as Soberlink. This can create tension and disrupt plans and add stress to what should be a joyful time for your child. So addressing boundary challenges requires both strategic tools and a shift in mindset. I'm going to provide you with a tool called my boundary decision tree. This tool is going to be helpful in deciding when to set a boundary with your co-parent and when to be flexible and accommodating. And here's a quick video on boundaries.
The truth is, I still struggle with setting boundaries with people with dominant or aggressive personalities. And whether it's a friend or coworker or parent or partner, it's always going to be hard because those types of people see your boundaries as disrespectful, right? They're used to doing or saying whatever they want. So when they keep pushing you on something and you say, I'm not willing to have that conversation, they're going to call you immature. Or when they keep yelling at you or calling you names and you say, I told you that I would leave the room when you yelled, so that's what I'm going to do, they will call you controlling, right? Because boundaries make you a heck of a lot harder to manipulate, don't they? And that's what's going to make some people angry. But just because someone has a negative reaction to your healthy boundary does not mean you did it wrong. And just so you know, it's perfectly normal to feel anxious or scared or second guess yourself. And even when you have the courage to set a healthy boundary, you still feel guilty, don't you? But I just want to point out the fact that you're worried about how they feel, right? You're worried about how your actions affect them. And I think that this means that you're on the right track, because just ask yourself this. Is that being reciprocated? Are they concerned with how their words and actions affect you? You're worried about whether you're disrespecting them, right? And yet, when's the last time they ever asked you if you felt disrespected? How often do we serve and bend over backwards for someone and they say nothing? But the moment you express you're not comfortable overextending yourself in this particular area, they use that as an opportunity to guilt trip you or say that you're being inconsiderate.
So again, very fitting with the theme. I have this co-parenting boundary decision tree that I created. I created this because my clients were coming to me and saying, I don't know when to set a boundary and when to be flexible. I want to have this supportive co-parenting relationship and I want to accommodate these requests, but it's affecting me, right? So I created this boundary tree so that people would be able to stop coming to me to have their answers. And I wanted to empower them with a tool that could help them decide on their own. When setting boundaries, you want to establish a clear boundary, but also be thoughtful about when to be flexible. What do you do when your co-parent is asking for a change in the holiday schedule? So this is when the boundary tree comes in handy. Also, what do you do when your co-parent misses a Soberlink test? And this is a great example of when to use this boundary tree, because for that, it comes down to safety, right? So first and foremost, you're going to ask yourself, how does this benefit my children? And are they safe? Diving in deeper to that, is it going to change? Is this change going to offer them a positive experience or cause unnecessary stress? So these are all factors to consider. Next, is it considering your own time and energy? Because I feel like I hear from parents and they say, I'm constantly accommodating their requests and I'm constantly bending over backwards and I'm doing everything I can, but this is leading to resentment, right? And you don't want to be resentful. So how does this affect your own time and energy? Is it setting a precedent for other last minute changes? Is it going to disrupt your plans or create additional stress? Then you don't have to do it. And then lastly, what would a professional say? Consider what guidance you might receive from a family court professional, your attorney, or a co-parenting coach like me, maybe your therapist. Would they support the change or advise sticking to the agreed upon schedule? So these questions are all going to help you decide when it's appropriate to hold a firm boundary or when it's okay to be flexible. Ultimately, it's about balancing your child's best interest with your own boundaries, ensuring that you're not constantly sacrificing your time and energy for the sake of someone else's lack of planning. If you decide to say no to a last minute request, or if you're setting a boundary because they missed a Soberlink test, you need to communicate your decision clearly and calmly and reinforce the importance of sticking to the agreed upon plan to maintain consistency for your child. So co-parenting during the holidays can lead to situations that impact your child's emotional stability, whether they've been exposed to conflict or need help transitioning between homes, or just need some extra help because of the unique stresses of the season. Kids have a lot to deal with during this time. Being around new people, unfamiliar settings, being thrown off their normal routine, or witnessing maybe a conflict between you and your co-parent. Or even maybe they witnessed to an incident where a parent has to deny visitation because the other parent missed a Soberlink test or showed up to a custody exchange impaired. These scenarios can create confusion, anxiety, and emotional distress for children, making it harder for them to feel safe and grounded during the holidays. So, in order to explore some practical strategies for supporting yourself and supporting children through these challenges, I'm excited to introduce Kylie Wheel. Again, Kylie is going to teach us about our nervous system and how to get back into connection mode. And Kylie, I'm just going to stop sharing so that you can have our full attention.
That sounds great. And I was just going to say, there were so many tremendous doables and mindset shifts that you shared with all of them. And I'm excited to then introduce how our biology plays a role in being able to execute or implement. If somebody was like, yes, that sounds good, but then how can I make sure that I follow through? So
right,
exactly. I'm going to start by giving just a quick crash course on the nervous system in general. And true to Brain Highways form, I'm going to use my very high-tech stick here, my gear, to introduce the concept. But basically, when it comes to the nervous system, we can be in what we call connection mode, which is the gold part here. And that is where we're intended to spend most of our time. And that's where we want to spend most of our time. When we're in connection mode, we can think clearly, we can be kind, we can be compassionate, we can be creative or curious, which all would be really applicable and helpful to co-parenting in the holiday season, right?
Right.
But our nervous system, for everybody, our kids, ourselves, is always scanning. It's like it has this little radar, and it's always scanning and asking just one question. And it's asking, am I safe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it. And if it even just thinks for a fraction of a second that maybe I'm not, it quickly shifts us into what we call protection mode, where either I get a rush of adrenaline and cortisol and all of those hormones to prepare to fight or flee the threat, or I may shut down, where I just try to disassociate. But either way, even if it is a real threat, it's always intended that that threat passes and we get back to connection mode. And what we're always so excited to do is teach parents and kids, how do we first identify when I've shifted? And how do I then get back? Because in our experience, most people are not encountering real, attacking tigers in danger in daily life, but the nervous system makes all kinds of mistakes. It may be, I get a text not on the correct platform from my co-parent. It's like straight to protection mode, right? Or I go to pick up my child and they're late at the exchange, or my child even just says, no to putting on my pajamas because they're dysregulated after being at their co-parent, and my nervous system lands here. So the name of the game is, how do we quickly resolve a false alarm threat so we can get back to connection mode? This is where we're able to then implement your kind philosophy and actionables. So I want to quickly introduce that concept, but hold the thought about connection mode and protection mode, because then what I want everyone to imagine is like a race car. So a race car's engine can either be off or on, right? It can't be on and off at the same time. And it's also very possible for a race car to turn on, but then just kind of idle, like brum, 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 where it's not really racing ahead, but we have turned on. And of course, a race car can zoom ahead full throttle, right? The nervous system is actually the same. We cannot physiologically be in connection mode and protection mode at the same time. It's also very possible to just idle in protection mode. So we may not think, well, yeah, I'm not screaming, my child isn't, but we might have shifted into protection mode. Of course, we all probably have experienced and seen the full throttle protection mode, where maybe somebody's screaming, crying, shouting.
Right. Yeah.
That's really easy to identify and see. But it's that idling in protection mode that can be really imperative to identify and recognize. And I have my other very fancy tool here, but if this ball here, when it's closed like this, is connection mode, and this is that full throttle, what often happens is we may think we're trying to be flexible, or we're giving a grace, but our nervous system triggered a little bit of idling into protection mode. And then as the day goes on, if I idle farther and farther, we're so much more likely, ourselves and our kids, to then hit the full throttle. Right. So it's really important to be aware that even if we're not screaming or yelling, we may have shifted one way or the other. And before we make any decision, like when you're talking about your boundary tree, we want to first get back here. Right. Another really key reason parents would like in our experience to be aware of connection mode and protection mode. It has to do with this amazing phenomenon in physics called entrainment. So it's entrainment, entrainment. And it has to do with, like, if you picture pendulums, if my hands were different pendulums, in physics, if one pendulum is swinging like this and another one is swinging like this, in a very short amount of time, they'll sync up, excuse me, and become entrained with each other. And this happens in so many ways in nature. It turns out our nervous systems are always talking to each other. We're in the same, location, whether we're aware of it or not. And
Right.
so we have this amazing ability to entrain connection mode with our kids, or inadvertently, unfortunately, entrain protection mode. So
Right.
as you're saying, it may be I've done a fabulous job of leaving my kids out of the conflict.
Right.
And I am earnestly not engaging in other discussions, at our exchange. But if my nervous system is in protection mode and I haven't learned or done something yet to viscerally help it, I may inadvertently, if this is my protection mode, my child may have shown up and they're in connection mode. They had the time of their life, but then I get in the car, it's like, oh, wait, are we in protection mode? And I've
Right.
suddenly entrained my child as well. I love that as a parent because it's so empowering to know I also can use that to my favor,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
it could be that I come and my child is so dysregulated and there was stress, but I've been doing things to ensure that I'm in connection mode when we come to the exchange. And so even if my child is dysregulated, I can easily then bring them back into connection mode too. So with that in mind, I wanted to give a few doables today for what can I do to, like, send a text to my nervous system that goes, you know what, I get it. Get my stick back out here. Yeah, of course, that's an amygdala trigger, as you referenced earlier, but it's actually not danger. Let's get back for my own nervous system, which directly then impacts my child's. There's hopefully many ways that people have already discovered refuels them, whether it's going for walks, time with friends, gardening, yoga, all of those different things that can be really powerful for the nervous system. But as you were sharing, there's a lot that happens in real time when it comes to co-parenting, especially during the holidays. And, you know, I've not been a part of an exchange in the parking lot, but I imagine you can't go, give me 10. I'm going to go for a walk before I move forward. Because,
Right.
we need some doables in the moment.
Mhm.
And so we have our traditional family programs, but in our connection mode on the go program, we teach really fast and efficient visceral approaches that are tactile, that literally do, via different movements and hand placements, tell the nervous system, false alarm, I'm safe. So I wanted to give two today. There's a plethora in the program. But the first one has to do with how our biology really changes once we've shifted into protection mode, even if we're just idling right here, even if I'm not screaming or I'm not, having a meltdown. And so when the nervous system sounds the alarm, the blood flow does start to leave the thinking parts of the brain. I always picture it as though it's like the cortex here has just kind of gone dark. And that's why logical thinking, rational thinking doesn't apply. We've likely all experienced this as parents. When your child's in protection mode, it's like, good luck. It's offline. And so that is part of why people often say, take a deep breath, because that does help bring some blood flow and oxygen back to the thinking parts of the brain. But for this first action, we call it lights back on breathing, because it uses how the nervous system communicates via touch as a really tactile way to also be mindful and be communicating, I really do want the blood flow back here. So with lights back on breathing, which again, you could do this while sitting in your car waiting for them to pull up at the exchange.
Yeah.
Or you could do this if you get that text message that you're like, they're trying to completely change the schedule last minute, before
Right.
I respond, because I want to respond in connection mode and not react. I might do lights back on breathing. So you put one hand on your heart, because our heart earnestly does lead when we're in connection mode. Oh, so sorry. And you're going to put one hand on the thinking parts of your brain and hold that and take a few deep breaths there. All right, there we go. Sorry, my dog got his own amygdala triggered there. So that's lights back on breathing. It can be a really
Yeah,
helpful
it felt really good.
just again to say, I would like the blood flow back here, and I would like to listen to my heart. So it helps us just stay a little bit more present and in the moment. The other one that I wanted to introduce today has to do with how when we're in connection mode, we're utilizing the messages from our heart to our brain, but we also have both sides of our brain working together as a team. The left and the right sides of the brain do process information differently, and sometimes they're not operating optimally. And that's part of why, research shows how it can be really helpful to go for a walk if we're trying to regulate and process. It's that bilateral coordination. But thankfully, we don't have to get up and walk. We can do anything that crosses this vertical midline to also get the same effect. So this is part of our crossover routine, but you just make 2 loose fists like this. And you can't see my legs, but you'll just cross over and lightly go up and down each leg. And when you do this, you get some great proprioceptive stimuli, which is also calming and grounding for the nervous system. And again, I might not be able to do this one in a work meeting, but I can certainly do this in my home or in an exchange. Okay, so you go up and down like that. And then you can also, if you want, because it's any way that we're crossing this midline, take those same fists and cross here and then pat down on your legs. So it looks kind of just like this, back and forth. So again, getting some sensory input and stimuli while crossing over. And that's just 2 of the ways. We offer so many different ones because every nervous system is really different and what resonates. As I introduce that, though, I also want to explain that if you wait until you're in a high stress situation to try them, your nervous system is likely to be like, that doesn't resonate, that doesn't feel good. So we highly recommend trying these lots of times just when you're in connection mode, maybe right before you go to bed, anytime you're at before you brush your teeth, lots of different times just naturally baked into your day so that it becomes familiar for your nervous system to be able to draw on when you're in protection mode. And same goes for introducing these to your kids. If you go to an exchange and you see they're really dysregulated, not the time to go, hey, let's try this, right?
Yeah. Stop having that meltdown.
It's a real quick, countdown to a lot of resistance. You're trying to fix me, But if you've done it with them a lot proactively, then I don't even have to say anything. I might just, as the parent, do it for myself, which also signals it's totally safe to recognize them in protection mode. There's no judgment in that, and opens the door for them to be able to do the same. Soberlink is also a really helpful tool for the nervous system in that no nervous system likes uncertainty.
Absolutely.
So that in itself also really helps ensure people stay in connection mode because it takes the guesswork out of the equation. So I think that's phenomenal from a nervous system perspective.
Absolutely provides that peace of mind.
Yes. So, but those were 2 that I wanted that incorporate different ways we help the nervous system, both with proprioceptive input, deep breathing, and crossing that midline. So hopefully that can help.
That's great. No, I'm going to be doing that when I go pick up my kids on Sunday in the minivan in the parking lot.
And again, and I think sometimes people, when they've been told to take a deep breath, they earnestly want to, but it's hard to stay mindful and present in that moment. So if even just having that tactile element can really help. Right. Or if I find I'm not able to get that real deep breath because I'm surging a bit in protection mode, I might first do a crossover routine and get movement in that way before I then try to find my breath.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for providing those tools. And that's the thing, that's what I'm all about. I live for empowering my clients with their own tools, so I stop getting those every single time there's an issue. I don't have to stop and email. I can teach them the tools so that they can do this themselves. And was basically
so hard to trust your gut and your intuition if you're in protection mode. So, if I can get back to connection mode, then I can be like, oh yeah, what was the tool that Tessa provided? Is this the time where the flexibility actually feels okay, that I don't need to have a boundary?
Right.
So I'm grateful that was helpful.
Yes, thank you so much, Kylie. Can you see our information up on the screen? Can you see our?
I can, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that being said, I just wanted to thank everyone so much for attending this webinar. And if you have any further questions or need resources, this is our contact. These are our socials and emails. So feel free to reach out and if you need additional help. And also, like I said, my Soberlink links for the discount code for a device are on my website and also in the link in bio and on my socials. Um, so yeah, with that being said, thank you everyone. Thank you, Kylie, for sharing
So
such
much for having
amazing
me.
information. And thank you to Soberlink for
Yeah, thank you
hosting
so
the
much.
webinar today. And that's where I'd like to end it. Thank you. Oh, let's see if there's a chat in the chat. Yep, Soberlink says thank you everyone for being on today.
Great. Thank you
So
so much for having me.
that I hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday season with your loved ones. And thank you so much.